Hey folks, Trubie here again to talk to you about Dice Masters. So today we're going to talk about when teams go bad. What happens when you've got a bad team? But before I get into that, got to go through our usual weekly event, the usual business at the store. This Sunday we're having affiliation battle. It's a modern event where all of your characters must have the same affiliation. So everyone has to be villains, everyone has to be Avengers, everyone has to be Fantastic Four, and then you can have any basic action or any actions you want on the team as well. So if you were, well, actually you're not going to play Fantastic Four because it's a modern event, but if you were going to come in with, say you wanted to use villains, you could still have the Danger Room, which has no affiliation on there. Also, if a character is a flip character, it's counted as having the affiliation on both sides for team building purposes. So you could have that rare flip Batman on a Batman team or on a villains team. I'll probably have some suggestions later on what I'm going to be bringing and what you might want to bring to take it down. So, all right, now let's get straight to what I want to talk about. So this past weekend, we did a event for, what was the event? It was just a modern build, and I decided to just do Brotherhood of Evil Mutants. There was a couple cards on there that I wanted to try out, and I thought, what the heck, let's go with theme over functionality. And, well, it didn't function that well. I ended up going 1 and 2 on the day. And the one game that I won, I really probably shouldn't have. It's just one of those things where my opponent had bad rolls and just didn't quite get to what he needed to, and I did. But so let's go straight into the team, and I'm going to talk about what went wrong as I go through it, and talk about basically where I think it went wrong. As a TO, this is actually one of the things that comes up a lot with new players and just players who are getting the feel for things. Like, they'll play their team and they'll be like, well, what'd I do wrong? What's wrong with the team? And it's a really hard question to answer, because sometimes it's just your buy order, sometimes it's it's just one thing you're missing in your build. I think that as I go through this, I think there's a couple of questions that you can ask yourself that really help you figure out what's wrong with the team. So let's start off with our basic actions that we used. Since I was going to be using villains, I figured Villainous Pact would be a good fill in here, because it has potential win condition on it. So your opponent, when you use it, your opponent chooses one non-villain character die. One non-villain character die. All other non-villain character dice cannot block this turn. So unless your opponent's playing villains as well, it's pretty good to get your guys through. And also, of course, has the ability to ramp as long as you don't have anything in your prep with the global there. Then I also went with Proton Cannon, almost exclusively because it was a 2-cost. One of the issues with this team is everything is 3-cost or above. So on those turns that I went first, I was very concerned about rolling 2 energy and a sidekick and then not having anything I could do with it. So I thought I needed at least to have a 2-cost basic action. I think I would have been better off with Shocking Grasp here, because then I could use it for my own sidekicks and have a form of sidekick ramp, a Shocking Grasp ramp. But I kind of wanted to stay all Marvel, so I went with Proton Cannon. It didn't really hurt, and it kind of mixed well with one of my team members who was potentially going to get really big, but we'll get to him in a little bit. But now, first 2 character cards for this team. I went with the Maximoff twins, the Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver. Both being 3 costs. I thought that's probably about as good as I'm going to get with the Brotherhood. And also, I really like the Scarlet Witch. I wanted to use her. I wanted to see if she was as good as I thought she was. So while Scarlet Witch is active during your opponent's roll and reroll step, your opponent must reroll any action dice that land on action phase and cannot reroll any action dice that are on energy phase. So with this, it actually did exactly what I hoped it would do. I don't think any of my opponents managed to successfully roll an action while I had her out. So that's pretty good. I mean, granted, it's not going to be 100%, but it was 100% this past Sunday. So she's pretty good. Yeah, on the team I use next week, I am probably going to use her again. She's one of the few bright spots on this team. Then Quicksilver, Terragenesis. He has Impulse, which you pay a bolt. If you do an extra bolt, so basically upping his cost to 4. And if you do, during your next main step, field Quicksilver for free on his level 1 side, regardless of his location. I think I only used his Impulse ability once. I mostly just wanted a 3 cost, and his stats are fairly decent. 3-1, 3-2, 4, 4-3. It's basically just something to throw at your opponent every turn. And he actually, throwing at my opponent every turn worked pretty well with one of the next 2 cards here. Transition to that. Which, there's 2 bolt characters already, so that worked well with Pyro, Bonfire of Vanity. While Pyro is active, you roll 2 or more bolts during your roll and reroll step, deal 2 damage to your opponent. So yeah, Pyro, good way to get a little bit of chip damage in. Unfortunately, yeah, unless you go 10 turns with him out and rolling bolts 10 turns, you're not going to win with him. So I would not call him a win condition. Because that's maxed out at 2 damage per turn. But he helps. He actually did do some work for me. Then our other one here is Sabretooth. When fielded, spin all of your character dice up 1 level. He was almost completely here just for thematic purposes. I did tend to buy him just because when I was out of Quicksilvers, he was kind of helpful. He'd roll characters up a level, but he was just all right. I didn't love him, and he didn't do a whole lot of work for me. But I went once again with theme over function. So our next 2 cards. Avalanche here was actually the other card that I really wanted to play with in this team. So while Avalanche is active, when a villain character dies fielded, deal 1 damage to all opposing character dice. These big board wipe type abilities, like with Jubilee, with Avalanche here, Breath Weapon, I like these a lot. And I thought, Avalanche, I'll just be, if I'm going all villains, I'm going to be fielding villains like crazy. He's going to deal tons of damage. This also triggers when your opponent fields villains. So, he's pretty cool. Definitely kept sidekicks off the field. But generally, like with this team, with my costs and everything, and in fact, I wasn't using Swarm with villains. The most I was usually fielding villain-wise was maybe 2 a turn. So my opponent, if they had anything that was a 3 cost or above, or 3 defense or above, it was pretty safe. Something I really should have had in this team, which still I think would have been okay thematically, and I didn't do it, would have been the Uncommon Danger Room. That it's a dangerous card to use, but it's when you use it until your next turn, whenever a character would take a damage, is KO'd. Coupling that with Avalanche, that would have been pretty great. Would have kept my opponent's stuff off the field, would have wiped the board so I could have gotten stuff through. But I didn't use it, because once again, I was going for a full Brotherhood team, all 8 slots, Brotherhood of Evil Mutants. So yeah, not my best move. Also, the staff from D&D, Tomb of Annihilation, I forget the staff of something, does something very similar to the Danger Room, except it also allows you to prep a die, and it if you knock out more than 2 things, or 2 things or more, and it's a fist though, and there's only one of. With Danger Room, you can have multiple, so that's sort of like the trade-off there. Then Blob was my other sort of control piece. And Blob's when fielded, choose an opposing card, canceling all previous choices. Your opponent may not purchase or field that card's die until Blob leaves the field. The other issue here, Blob, he's a cool card. I like him. The issue was if my opponent got something out before I got Blob out, he didn't help. There's a couple instances where my opponents had big beefy things that I wanted to stop them from being able to field, but they got it out first, and as stated before with Avalanche, if they had defense above 3, I wasn't getting them off the field. I did not have good removal for this team. So I actually would have been much better off with the I think it's the uncommon blob, the one that captures when it fields, because blob's going to sit out there and he's going to sit on whatever he decides to take over. So if my opponent's buying some big 6 or 7 cost, I'm offsetting that with just a 4 cost. So I probably should have gone with the uncommon blob. He did keep Shriek from getting out on me though, so I guess that's one good benefit. But it just wasn't as good as I hoped. Now for our last 2 cards, I went with 2 big heavy hitters, and they're the biggest Brotherhood characters that we've got. Magneto. While Magneto is active, at the start of your turn, spin all non-Brotherhood of Evil Mutants character dice down 1 level. And the other one that would have been useful, playable at least, was I think the uncommon gives all Brotherhood characters infiltrate. I wasn't planning on really getting through that often, so I didn't think I'd really be using infiltrate. I just didn't think it would help. Maybe a combo of infiltrate and villainous pact would have worked okay, but that's a 4 cost basic action and a 6 cost. I really don't want to I didn't want to plan around that. So I went with this one instead. My thinking was, well, I'll spin all their stuff down, and it might be easier to take out with Avalanche, and that really didn't happen. He wasn't that good. Another sort of wasted slot. And our last character here, Juggernaut. When a psychic dies KO'd, Juggernaut gains +2 attack and +2 defense. This is one of those things where I was using this in conjunction with Avalanche. So he'd field, Avalanche would trigger, KO sidekicks, and he'd get +X+X. I think the most I got in a turn was +4/+4. So at that point he was an 11, 7/6 on there. So he was an 11/10, which was pretty beefy. But they were able to just block with something else that was like 1/3. So that didn't really help. I had also planned on using this in conjunction with Proton Cannon and giving him Overcrush, but that timing never came about. I actually think this would have been better off if I'd gone with another time. If I instead of Proton Cannon, if I'd used Shocking Grasp, because then I could use it on my own sidekicks. I could build up on those, knock out my own sidekicks, give them the bonus, and hopefully get him through for heavy damage. But again, didn't happen. So let's go to the full team list here and talk about what really was wrong and like questions I think I can ask myself in the future, and hopefully you can ask yourself in the future when it comes to team building. So the first thing is, how are you applying pressure to your opponent? Like, how quickly are you coming in and doing damage and making them have to change up their plans and just putting them on tilt? With this team, I just really wasn't. Avalanche was sort of disrupting the buildup of sidekicks, but more often that was actually helping my opponents to get to their bigger things. So that was a problem. Scarlet Witch was able to disrupt them if they wanted to go for heavy basic action use, but that really wasn't enough. There wasn't anything here to really scare my opponent, to make them change their plans, to make them do something different, to make them worry. So you really want to get your opponent on the defensive, and I did not do that. Something else to ask. How are you going to remove something that's big and causing you issues? Like, if your opponent gets out, as someone did against me, the rare Hulk that does 2 damage whenever you damage something. Well, having that out against you and you've got Avalanche, that's not so good. You field a villain. Oh, I dealt 1 damage to all your characters. Oh, well, I had 4 characters out, including Hulk, so there's 3. You're going to take 6 damage for fielding a villain. Yeah, that happened. So that was not good. I needed a way to get rid of that Hulk, and I had no means of doing so at all. As soon as that Hulk got out, it was out. the rest of the game. The only hope I would have had is if I got Juggernaut and KO'd everything else and then attacked the Juggernaut, and that just didn't happen. So that was bad. That was really bad. Let's see. Other questions to ask yourself. What is your win condition? Like, how are you going to get in and win? With this team, my best hope was slowly pinking you off with Pyro and maybe getting through with Villainous Pact. But with the attack stats on a lot of these guys, like, Scarlet Witch was a 1-3 and then a 3-3. Quicksilver's a 3-3. Blob is a 1. I think he's 1 attack across the board. So yeah, if these early ones I'm buying over here, sorry, even if I get Villainous Pact and they all get through, I'm still not getting through for a coup de grace. I'm not killing you. I'm maybe taking you down 12, 15 max. And I mean, even if I got a Juggernaut out, you can still block with at least one non-villain. So Juggernaut's out, that's what you're going to block. I'm going to get through with the other guys, maybe 12 damage, and then I'm going to have only one blocker, and I'm dead next turn. That's basically what happened every single time that anything like that came up. It's like, oh, if I attack all out this turn, I'm dead next turn. So that was bad. Let's see. Other things to ask is, what in your team just doesn't belong? What is in here that just doesn't work, doesn't help, doesn't do anything? And in this team, without any doubt, Magneto and Sabretooth were completely wasted. Like, they just did nothing for me. Magneto, yeah, I mean, you spin things down, but for a 6 cost, no way. It's just not worth it. If he was like a 4 cost, maybe. Or, yeah, if maybe at a 5 cost, if it's when your opponent fields something, it gets spun down. I don't know. But yeah, it just did not work. Yeah, how else can I explain how bad this team was? Let's see. Another thing that I felt like would have really helped this team would have been an energy fixer. So as I said before, that having a 3 cost as your lowest character is dangerous when you go first, when you're rolling 3 dice. If you have an energy fixer global, like on Merlin or on the rare Bjorn or Billy Club, that you can turn a sidekick into an energy type. In case of Billy Club, I think it's a mask or a fist. Merlin's a bolt. Merlin would have fit on here well. I may very well use Merlin next week. But yeah, having something to turn that sidekick. If you're rolling 3 dice, you get a sidekick, and you don't want to get stuck with it if you roll a sidekick on the second time. Being able to turn that to a bolt and still be able to buy either Quicksilver or Scarlet Witch, it would have been helpful. And then I could have gone with something a little different than Proton Cannon, maybe something that would have helped a little more, something a little more win condition-y. But yeah, that's something else to think about in your team building. That first turn, it doesn't sound like it'd be a big deal to get stuck in the mud, but it is. It really is. If you can't buy anything, that's bad. But yeah, this was the team. Not my best move, but hopefully seeing this gives you an idea of what you should do in your team building. So what am I going to do with this? I'm going to take this information and I'm going to rebuild and build something better for next week. So next week is our villain or our affiliation battle event. So I'm going to take this and scrap 90% of it and make a villain team for our affiliation battle. I'm still going to use that Scarlet Witch. I'm on the fence whether I'm going to use Avalanche or not, and I'm on the fence about Blob or not. I may use Avalanche and then bring in the either the staff or Danger Room. I haven't decided yet. But I also probably use stuff a little more aggressive. I might actually use Norman Osborn, the Don't Call Me Gobby. I haven't decided yet. I'm trying. I typically try to bring things not too strong for our events, but yeah, obviously. But knowing that I'm going to bring villains, those of you here, our locals that are hearing this, bring things that are anti-villain. If you want to see me sweat, see me curse. In the, I think it was the Green Arrow Flash set. No, it was World's Finest. The World's Finest Batgirl, uncommon that cannot be blocked by sidekicks or villains. If I bring a team of all sidekicks and villains, unless I've got a flip card, I can't block it at all. The only other option I've got is there's a Ra's al Ghul that has the global that I can remove an affiliation from one of my characters by paying a mask. I can remove a villain affiliation. I might actually bring that card just for fear of that Batgirl. So, yeah, that Batgirl's good, especially if someone's using villains. It's one slot. It's worthwhile, I think, in an event like this. I will probably bring things that might hurt certain affiliations. Like I think I've always wanted to try to use Enchantress. There's one that hurts villains, or hurts Avengers. I'm sorry. I might bring that just for fun, especially if I've got like an extra slot or two. But yeah, just search through your stuff, find out what hurts villains, and bring it, and then you'll crush me, and I will cry. All right, folks. Well, that's all I've got. Hopefully, just going through this train wreck of a team helps you out and makes you realize, make you think a little bit more about your build, and yeah, this is what goes wrong. I mean, it's a fun thematic team. Well, actually, it wasn't really that fun, but it's a thematic team that just didn't quite work. If I'd changed a few things, maybe put in the danger room, that could have made a world of difference, but I didn't. So this is what we got. 1 and 2. Deservedly, I would have been 0 and 3. Hopefully, I'll do better this coming Sunday. So that's all for this week, folks. That's all for this week, folks. Hope to see you guys on Sunday.